welcome to part number 2 for the safety rules questions going over. We left off at number 13 on part number 1. So now for part number 2, we're going to see if we can't finish these in the amount of time. Number 14, where should you point a test tube when you're heating? Test tubes, unfortunately, what can happen is if you heat the stuff that's in a test tube too quickly, the stuff that's inside will come shooting out of the top and go shooting across the room. So in the case of test tubes, what you want to do is you want to take it and point it towards a back wall or some other wall, not out towards the classroom. So that if by chance you heat it too quickly and the stuff does come shooting out, it goes and hits a wall and not other people. I will give you a story that occurred to my dad when he was in school many, many years ago. In his high school chemistry class, instead of having individual sinks at lab tables, they had one long tube along all the sinks that came down and dumped into a big vat, and they collected all the water throughout the day. While they were doing a lab where they were heating an acid inside of a test tube, and this one student heated the test tube too quickly, and the acid that was inside came up, shot up, and hit the girl right in the face. And the instructor just happened to be standing nearby and knew the idea that if you put a lot of water on something really, really quickly that is either been hot or is a chemical, then chances are nothing will happen. And what he actually did was he grabbed the girl by the back of the head, grabbed her hair, and took her face and shoved it down into that bucket of water at the end of all of the lab tables. He held it there for a second and then pulled it back up, and she's like and he goes, boom, and shoves it back down into it again and pulls her back up. Right? And what ended up happening in this real life story many, many, many years ago was the girl ended up with no thermal burn from the heat, and she ended up with no chemical burn from the acid. Why? Because of the whole bunch of water really, really quick that the professor or the teacher thought of to try and protect the girl. So just remember that if you get anything on you or get things hot, put lots and lots and lots of water on it really, really quick, and you probably won't end up with any problems. Number 15, what is borosilicate glassware used for? Borosilicate glassware is also called Pyrex. What it is, it's glassware that you can take and you can heat stuff inside of it. The way in which I like to point this one out is go to your mom's kitchen cabinet and pull out her glass casserole dish that she makes stuff in. If you flip it over and look at the bottom, it'll say Pyrex across the bottom. What that means, it means you can put stuff in it, you can put it in the oven, you can cook in it. And it should be perfectly fine. If you take the glass that you put milk inside of, and even with nothing in it, and you put it inside the oven, and you heat it up, it'll break. It can't tolerate heat changes because it's not borosilicate. So you got to have borosilicate glassware in order to heat things inside so that they don't break. Number 16, what is the correct sequence to light a lab burner? Lab burners, if you turn on the gas, which we talked about earlier, then gas will come out and you'll end up with this big invisible ball of gas. And if you light a match, then that ball of gas will light on fire and you'll end up with like no eyebrows. So the correct way to light a lab burner is light the match, hold it over the Bunsen burner, then turn on the gas valve. So as soon as the gas comes out of the gas valve, then it lights on fire and you don't end up with that invisible ball of fire. So the sequence on that, light the match first, then turn on the gas valve, right? Not the other direction. 17, when should you ask Mr. Pape or your teacher for help with a lab burner? Lab burners can be really finicky. They don't like any air disturbances. If the fans are on in the classroom for the heater or air conditioner, that can be enough air disturbance to make it so that the lab burner doesn't work. So what I'll usually do is sometimes I'll just take it, move it over into a different spot on the table and try it again, and sometimes it'll work. The other thing is there's a little doorway that gives it oxygen at the bottom that you have to twist. You want to make that closed when you start it. Don't try and start it with it open. It doesn't like to light when it's open. Once it's lit, then you can adjust that to try and make your flame hotter. So if you do have problems getting it to light, just ask the teacher and they should be able to help you. 18, is it okay to taste substances in the lab? No, even if the stuff that is in the lab looks like it's edible, even if there's a bag of Doritos sitting in the lab, remember that we said earlier, the lab table is considered to be contaminated. So anything that's sitting on the lab table is possibly contaminated, so you cannot eat it. Right? So don't come in and think, oh, sweet, lunch, there's some Doritos, and try and eat it. Right? It could have some chemicals in it. 19, how do you smell substances in the lab? What you don't, I'm going to use my coffee cup for this. Don't take it and stick your nose in it and go, like that, because if you put two chemicals together and it produced a bad gas, then you may have just sucked in that gas and it could be poisonous and you may be dead. Okay? The way in which you smell things is you hold it away from your nose and you wave over the top of it like this, and you what's called wafting. And wafting is the way you should smell things so that you don't get a very direct amount of the gas if you have to smell things. Number 20, how can you keep from contaminating my bottles of chemicals? What I don't want you to do, nor does any other professor or teacher want you to do, is take your chemicals that are left over, take them over and go and squirt them back into my original bottle. Because what happens if you squirt it into the wrong bottle? Well, what you just did is you just contaminated that entire bottle. The entire bottle now is junk. Right? Or you could have even had a problem because you may have put a chemical in there that may cause a chemical reaction. So again, as I said, if you got extra left over, ask the teacher or professor what to do with it. Don't take it and go and squirt it back into the original bottle. Oh. Hold on one second while I get my lights turned back on. All right, there we go. Sorry, lights are on a timer in the classroom. Number 21. What should you watch for with electrical equipment? Any electrical equipment, hot plates and or microscopes. Those, if there's frayed or loose insulation or wires, don't use them. So make sure that you check the plugs. Okay. The other thing with that, I always love to point out too, is when you're going to unplug the devices, go all the way up to the plug, wiggle it and pull it out. Don't unplug it like you do your mom's sweeper, where you're sweeping along on the floor and all of a sudden you run out of cord and you grab the cord and go bang like that. Because when you do that, you go and then all of a sudden those little prongs that are supposed to look like this, and they're like bent over. And then what you do is bend them straight up, and each time you bend them up, ultimately what will happen is there'll only be one prong because one of them will break off, and now you can't use the device. So all right, number 22, how do you unplug electrical equipment? Oh, there, I just gave that one away. That is, go all the way up to the plug, wiggle it, and pull it out. Okay? Don't just grab it by the cord and yank it, because that's not going to be good on the device. 23, when do you clean glassware? You clean it 2 times. You clean it before you use it, and you clean it after you're all done. Both times. A common, rule of thumb is if you got to rinse something out, take it, fill it up with water, dump it out, fill it up with water, dump it out, fill it up with water, dump it out. Do it 3 times. If you've done that, then that should get rid of the residue that's left over inside of the container. So when you're all done with a beaker or any device, fill it up with water, dump it out, fill it up with water, dump it out, fill it up with water, dump it out 3 times, and you should have rinsed out any of the residue that's in there so it doesn't cause problems in the future for other labs. 24, what light source should not be used for a microscope? Don't use sunlight. Microscopes' jobs are to magnify things, so you don't want to magnify the sun's rays. You always want to use either the lights that are in the classroom that are coming down or the light device that's on the microscope. That was number 24. We're almost to the end. 25, why should you wash your hands after touching animals? Unfortunately, as we all know, animals may, not going to say that they do, they may carry disease. So you want to make sure that you wash your hands after you touch any animal. My thing that I always love to tell a story about in this one is there is a disease that you can get, and it's called pinworms. And what pinworms will do is they actually live inside the lower part of your intestine. And what they will do late at night is they like to stick their head out your anus, which is the spot where your poop comes out, and they lay eggs all around your anus. Well, when that happens, it makes you itch. So you might be sitting there itching, digging, and scratching, and then in doing that, you actually get eggs all over your fingers. Okay? And now you got pinworm eggs on you, and you get up in the morning and you walk downstairs, and oh, mom got some donuts. You're like, oh, donuts, and you grab a donut and you start eating it. Well, besides eating the donut, what else did you just eat? Well, you ate some pinworm eggs. And by eating pinworm eggs, now they go back down inside your system, and you have even more pinworm eggs or pinworms. And now the next night, you're actually itching, digging, and scratching with both hands. So now let's go backwards in time and go, where in the world did you get this to start with? Well, you didn't think about it, but you got home from school and Froofy, your dog, right, comes running out and jumps up on you and you're like, oh, Froofy, you're such a good dog. Okay, dog, get out of here. Right? But you're petting your dog and you didn't know that just before you got home, your dog was in the backyard and he went to the bathroom, and after he got all done, he's like, oh, and he starts rolling around in it. And you didn't know that your dog actually had pinworms. And by having pinworms, when he went poop, right, he laid some pinworm eggs and he got them on his hair. And when you were petting your dog, oh, Froofy, you're a good dog, right? You got eggs all over your hands, and then you walk in the house and mom made cookies, and you're like, oh, cookies. And you grab some cookies and you start eating them. You just ate pinworm eggs from your dog. Right? And that's how you may have originally got it. Now, we even go back even further and go, how do you know if your dog's got pinworms? Well, one possible reason or way to tell, and it's not the only reason we'll do this, but every so often you'll see your dog like sit on their hindquarters and they like drag their butt across the floor. That can mean that your dog might have worms. If they do that regularly, you probably want to take them to the vet and have them checked and see if they need to get some medication to kill the worms that they have. Which, by the way, that is also the other thing I want to point out. If you do get this, how do they get rid of it? Well, you go to the doctor gives you some pills, you take them, kills the eggs, and then you poop them out and you flush them down the toilet. Right? Same thing happens with your dog. You give him the pills, and if you were to go out and check his poop in the yard, you could actually see dead worms inside of his poop. So on that one, just remember, if you pet or touch any animals, just make sure that you wash your hands so that you don't end up with any, excuse me, goodness, any kind of problems. 26, excuse me. I had popcorn last night and it's still in there. 26. If you have an accident, what should you do? Well, accidents, number one, that's the term, accidents. An accident, what I want you to do is don't try and hide it. Tell me about it. Tell the teacher about it so that we can help take care of it so that we don't end up with other accidents or any other problems. All right, so make sure that you tell the teacher about it so that we can take care of it. 27, if you spill a chemical on yourself, what do? We already talked about it earlier, and we said that the best thing to do anytime you get chemicals on you, put lots and lots of water. Put lots and lots of water on it. So put lots and lots of water on it, and then tell the teacher. The faster, the sooner you get water on it, the better. Right? So if it's just on your pinky, stick it underneath the faucet, put lots of water. If you get it all over you, go to the shower and pull the shower handle and literally take a shower of water to get it off. 28, if you get chemicals in your eyes, what do? You get it inside your eyes, and what you do is you go to the eye wash station. Now, I always love to point out, having worked as a paramedic for many, many, many years, trying to get somebody to hold their eye open and get water to go across is literally impossible. So how am I as a paramedic, how am I going to get water to go across your eyes? What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, blink. So while you have your face down inside the eye wash station, okay, what I'm going to tell you, blink. And when you blink, your eyes will open for a split second, water will go across, and then you automatically will shut your eyes again. And then blink again. You'll open up and they'll shut. Open, shut. And every time you open them, you get water to go across. So remember that for the future. When your kid happens to get sand inside of his eye, you can blink, and by blinking, that will help get rid of the water. And also, you do have an eye wash station. It's right here by your nose. It's called your tear ducts. So you always want to push stuff toward your tear ducts, like your morning stuff that's in your eyes when you get up in the morning. Last question, if you spill something, what do? Get it cleaned up. Tell the teacher we'll get it cleaned up before it ends up becoming a problem. All right. With that, like I said, any of these things could be on the next test that's coming up. All right. So make sure that you are familiar with it. Make sure this is inside your notebook. All right. See you at the next one. See ya.